Okay, so let's unpack this today because I think we've all experienced this, right? You look at a colleague or maybe a friend, and they just seem incredibly steady, like highly responsible, performing at the absolute top of their game.
Oh, yeah. The ones who hit every deadline, hold down the great job, maintain the relationships, and they do it all with a smile.
Exactly. And you wonder, what is their secret? But the thing is, what if behind that highly capable exterior, they're just plagued by this quiet, persistent, deeply uncomfortable internal self-doubt?
Right.
It's this really fascinating puzzle for you listening because you can be functioning at an elite level, right? But internally, you still feel like you're running on this anxious autopilot, just constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It is remarkably common, and yet it's rarely discussed. Because, well, these individuals are so high functioning, they usually tell themselves that their internal friction doesn't really count.
Yeah, like they just have to push through it.
Exactly. They look around and assume everyone else has a stronger internal compass.
Yeah.
Or they think confidence is just um, a genetic lottery ticket that they somehow missed out on at birth.
And that feeling right there, that idea that confidence is just a trait you either have or you don't, that is exactly what we are taking apart in our deep dive today. We've got a massive stack of sources to figure out the actual mechanics behind this.
And the sources are incredibly varied this time.
They really are. We are pulling from clinical cognitive behavioral therapy guides, behavioral strategy playbooks, public speaking manuals, and this is my favorite part, insights from Olympic weightlifting coaches.
Which sounds crazy, but it connects perfectly.
It does.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to decode the structural architecture of confidence. And the really good news for you listening is that it is absolutely not a lottery ticket. It's a highly buildable skull.
What's so fascinating here is how universally all these diverse sources just completely dismantle that myth of innate confidence.
Right.
By connecting the dots between clinical psychology, behavioral design, and athletic training, we can actually see how anyone can systematically engineer their own self-assurance. But to do that, we have to move away from vague, warm and fuzzy feelings and look at the actual psychological mechanics.
Yeah, before we can build anything, we need to know what materials we're working with, right?
Mhm.
The leadership psychology sources in our stack point out that we constantly confuse three very specific terms in our everyday language.
We really do. We use them interchangeably, but they are distinct.
Right, so we have self-esteem, self-efficacy, and self-confidence. Let's break those down because, like you said, they are not the same thing.
Yeah. Understanding the difference is step one. So first, you have self-esteem. You can think of this as the broad, highly stable sense of your overall personal value and worth.
Like your baseline.
Exactly. Your fundamental baseline as a human being. Then you have self-efficacy. This is a concept introduced by the renowned psychologist Albert Bandura.
Oh, Bandura, yeah.
Right. Self-efficacy is your belief in your ability to succeed in very specific situations or tasks. So unlike self-esteem, it is highly variable and domain-specific.
All right, got it.
And then finally, we have self-confidence, which is the general trust in your abilities and judgment that actually allows you to take decisive action, even when you're facing uncertainty.
Okay, so let me try an analogy here. If we look at this, like building a house is self-esteem, the concrete foundation of the house, and self-efficacy is like the specific tools in your tool belt.
I like where you're going with this.
Like self-efficacy is knowing exactly how to use a hammer or a drill or a saw, and then self-confidence is the energy you bring to actually swing the hammer and build the walls.
You're very close, but let's tweak the self-confidence part of that just a bit.
Okay, lay it on me.
If self-esteem is the foundation and self-efficacy is knowing how to use the hammer, self-confidence isn't just the physical energy to swing it. Self-confidence is trusting yourself to swing the hammer without constantly worrying you're going to smash your thumb.
Oh, wow, okay. It's the trust in the execution. That makes total sense. And honestly, that really clarifies the paradox of the high-functioning anxious person we were just talking about.
How so?
Well, high self-efficacy in a specific task, like your daily work, can predict high self-esteem eventually, right?
Oh,
But they can also operate on completely different tracks.
oh, absolutely. They frequently do.
Right. You could be a highly efficacious project manager.
Yeah.
You have the tools, you know exactly how to swing the hammer, but you might still suffer from low overall self-esteem.
Yeah.
Your concrete foundation has cracks in it.
Yes. So every time you swing the hammer, the whole house rattles.
Exactly.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture for the listener, it explains the whole phenomenon of imposter syndrome. You have all the external skills, but internally, you just feel fragile.
So if the foundation has cracks, we obviously have to look at how to patch them. And our sources point straight to our internal narrative. I have to say, the clinical data on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is just staggering.
The numbers are incredibly strong.
They really are. The studies show a 1.12 effect size for self-esteem improvement, with 78% of people showing reliable long-term improvements. I mean, for anyone who isn't reading psychological journals every single day, an effect size over zero point 0.8 is considered massive.
It's huge.
Right. A 1.12 isn't just a minor mood boost. It implies a literal, fundamental rewiring of how a brain processes reality.
And those results maintain over time because CBT fundamentally changes your information processing. It isn't just venting. It is structural work.
Right.
It trains you to catch very specific negative thought patterns in real time.
Yeah.
Like right as they happen in your head.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate and stop you there for a second.
Sure.
Because when I hear someone say reframe your negative thoughts, my mind immediately goes to that toxic, good vibes only culture. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
If I genuinely bomb a presentation at work, I can't just go look in the mirror and tell myself I'm an amazing public speaker. I mean, how does delusion build genuine confidence?
Well, it doesn't. And that is a really crucial distinction here. CBT is never about forced positivity.
Okay.
It is entirely about accuracy and evidence. If you bomb a presentation, toxic positivity says, oh, I was amazing anyway, they just didn't get it.
Right, which is just lying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the negative inner critic on the other extreme says, I am a complete failure and I'm going to lose my job. CBT asks you to look at the actual cognitive distortions that are driving that extreme negativity.
Like catastrophizing, right?
Yes, catastrophizing is a major one. That's when you jump straight to the absolute worst case scenario. Another really common distortion is mental filtering.
Oh, I do that one. That's when you ignore, like, a dozen positive emails from your team just to fixate entirely on one minor piece of critique from a manager.
We all do it. And CBT asks you to put those specific thoughts on trial and look at the evidence objectively.
So it's about being your own supportive, rational coach rather than just this irrational critic. The sources offer some incredibly actionable tools for you to use when you catch yourself spiraling. One that really stands out is the downward arrow technique.
It's a fantastic tool.
Let's walk through it. Say you're listening to this on your commute right now, and you are just agonizing over a slightly awkward email you sent this morning. How would you use the downward arrow?
So the downward arrow is a way to expose the actual root of the anxiety. You start with that surface thought, which is, I messed up this email. Then you ask yourself, okay, what does that actually mean about me?
I would probably say it means I'm sloppy and unprofessional.
Okay, then you ask again. And what does being sloppy and unprofessional mean about you?
It means my boss thinks I'm bad at my job.
And we keep digging. And what does it mean if your boss thinks you're bad at your job?
Oh, wow.
Eventually, you hit bedrock. You uncover a negative core belief. Something deeply ingrained like, I am fundamentally incompetent or I am a fraud who is about to be found out.
That escalated quickly.
It always does in our heads. But exposing that core belief is so powerful because once it is out in the open, you can clearly see how irrational it is to link your entire human worth to a simple typo.
You can challenge it with real evidence.
Exactly.
Another tool that feels so simple but completely alters the whole landscape of a thought is just adding qualifying words.
Yes, the language we use internally is huge.
Adding the word yet changes everything. Instead of saying, I'm not good at public speaking, you say, I'm not good at public speaking yet.
Or adding the phrase right now.
Oh, yeah. I am having a hard time right now. It forces your brain to recognize that your current state of struggle is just temporary. It's not a permanent personality flaw.
And while we are managing all these cognitive distortions, we absolutely cannot ignore the mind-body connection.
Right, because your body reacts to the thoughts.
Yes, your physiological state directly dictates your sense of efficacy. If your heart is racing, your breathing is shallow, your palms are sweating, your nervous system is sending a physical alarm to your brain.
And the brain just assumes you're in real danger.
Right, it interprets that physical state as literal mortal danger, which obviously only feeds those cognitive distortions even more.
It's a vicious cycle. The bad thought triggers the physical panic, and then the physical panic validates the bad thought.
Which is why our sources emphasize physiological interventions, like box breathing.
Oh, the Navy SEAL technique.
Exactly. Inhaling for a count of 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4. You are literally signaling to your vagus nerve that you are safe.
You have to calm the body before you can effectively reframe the mind. Okay, so I can catch my cognitive distortions. I can breathe. I've patched the concrete foundation.
Right.
But at some point, my brain is going to call my bluff if I don't actually go out and do something successfully, right?
Yeah, it's a catch.
You can't just think your way into being capable. How do we get the physical proof our brain is demanding?
Well, this is where we shift from internal thinking to external action. And it brings us to a foundational concept from our behavioral strategy sources, which is the confidence-competence loop.
This part is fascinating.
Culturally, we have this totally backward assumption. We think we need to feel confident before we can become competent at something.
Right, we wait for the feeling to arrive before we even try.
Exactly. But the psychological reality is the exact reverse. Competence breeds confidence.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Think of it like a video game leveling system.
Okay, I'm tracking.
You don't start at level 1 and immediately try to fight the final boss. You would be completely crushed and you'd just quit the game.
Right, it would be overwhelming.
Instead, the game makes you fight low-level enemies to gain XP experience points. You gain these small competencies, which give you the strength and the actual confidence to face slightly harder challenges.
Yes, you're designing a loop of challenge, performance, and feedback. To design that loop in real life, you have to stay in what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls the flow channel.
The flow channel.
Right. If a challenge is too easy, you enter the boredom zone. You don't gain any confidence there because the task didn't require any real effort.
Makes sense.
But if the challenge is too hard, you enter the anxiety zone, where failure just confirms all your negative core beliefs. So the loop requires bounded, manageable challenges that sit right at the edge of your current ability.
A brilliant real-world example of this from our sources is Instagram.
Oh, the Bourbon pivot.
Yes. So in its very early days, Instagram was an app called Bourbon, and it was mostly a location check-in app. It really wasn't gaining much traction. But their massive, explosive success came when they pivoted to photo sharing with built-in filters.
Which completely changed the user experience.
Right, because before that, taking a genuinely beautiful, stylized photo on an early smartphone required a real understanding of lighting, editing, contrast. It was a high competence skill.
But those early Instagram filters gave everyday users instant competence.
Instantly.
With one single tap, a badly lit photo of a coffee cup suddenly looked professional and artistic. It placed the user right in that flow channel we just talked about, providing immediate visible feedback and behavioral validation.
They matched the challenge perfectly to the user's skill level.
Exactly.
And this principle of engineering competence is so powerful that it actually serves as the bedrock of elite athletic training. Let's talk about the Olympic weightlifting coaches from our stack.
Specifically, Ivan Abajaev.
Yes, the legendary Bulgarian weightlifting coach. He had a rule that sounds completely unhinged when you first hear it. He basically banned his athletes from missing lifts in practice.
Which is wild.
If an athlete failed a lift, the session was practically over.
It seems so counterintuitive to us, right?
Right.
Because we are always taught that practice is exactly where you are supposed to fail and push your limits.
Right. If you never fail, how do you even know how strong you are?
Well, this is where Albert Bandura's research comes back into play. Bandura demonstrated that mastery experiences, the undeniable physical act of successfully completing a task, are the single strongest source of self-efficacy.
So failure actively damages that.
Exactly. Abajaev understood that missing a heavy maximum effort lift disrupts an athlete's psychological self-assurance. Failure creates a literal physical memory of incompetence in the nervous system. He wanted his athletes to step onto the Olympic platform with a nervous system and a brain that had a historical record of only ever experiencing success.
That is profound. And we see a very similar philosophy applied by Pavel Tsatsouline, the Russian kettlebell and strength expert.
With his greasing the groove method.
Yes. So if your goal is to do, say, 10 pull-ups, the standard advice is to jump on the bar and struggle until your arms just give out. But Tsatsouline says absolutely no to that.
You do a fraction of your maximum instead.
Right. You do just 1 or 2 easy, non-fatiguing pull-ups, but you do them several times throughout the day. You never go to failure.
Because you are guaranteeing success every single time you approach the bar.
Yes.
You are building the neural pathways of the movement, but more importantly, you are building psychological confidence day by day. You aren't hoping for confidence to randomly strike.
You are manufacturing it.
Yes, through highly structured, repeated competence.
Okay, so we know how to manage the internal monologue now. And we know how to build our individual competence loops by greasing the groove and securing those easy wins.
Right.
But here's the major complication for you out there. How do you maintain this beautifully engineered psychological architecture when you introduce the most unpredictable, chaotic variable on the planet?
Other human beings.
Other human beings. Social friction is the ultimate stress test.
It really is. You can control a kettlebell,
Yeah.
and you can control an app on your phone, but you cannot control how an audience, an interviewer, or a colleague will react to you.
There is a brilliant paradigm shift for this in our sources from public speaking coach Maria C. Rincon. She notes that when we face a crowd, or honestly even just step into a tense meeting, we instinctively act as a spotlight speaker.
That's a great term for it.
We imagine this harsh spotlight shining down on us, and our internal monologue immediately starts spiraling. Do they like me? How do I look? Am I sounding smart enough?
And Rincon suggests deliberately shifting your mindset to become a lighthouse speaker instead.
I love this concept.
Because a lighthouse isn't looking at itself to see how bright it is, right?
Right.
It is shining its beam outward into the dark, scanning the water.
Yes.
A lighthouse asks, how can I guide them? What do they need right now? How can I be of service to the people in this room?
It changes the whole dynamic. It takes the pressure completely off your own ego and places your focus entirely on the task of providing value.
It does.
But let's look at the worst case scenario here, because so much of what we've discussed relies on guaranteed success.
The mastery experiences.
What happens when we face inevitable, undeniable social rejection? If confidence requires a track record of success, doesn't getting turned down for a promotion or bombing a date instantly break that competence loop?
It's a very important question. And the clinical CBT sources offer a very clear framework for social resilience when things do go wrong.
Okay, what's the first step?
The first step is the 24-hour rule.
The 24-hour rule.
When you face a painful rejection, you give yourself 24 hours to simply feel the sting. You don't rush to suppress it with toxic positivity, and you don't instantly try to fix it.
You just acknowledge that it hurts.
Exactly. You sit with it.
And then after that 24 hours, you build what the sources call a rejection portfolio.
Right. You systematically document instances where you faced a rejection, survive the emotional fallout, and move forward anyway.
Like keeping receipts on your own survival.
Exactly. Over time, this portfolio becomes historical, undeniable proof of your own resilience. It trains your brain to decouple a rejection from your core self-worth.
So a no isn't a disaster anymore.
Right. You start to reframe a no as mere data. It's just information about a mismatch in fit or timing, rather than a fatal condemnation of your value as a human.
It's a literal resume of your own resilience. I love that so much.
It's very effective.
And for everyday social friction, the sources provide structured frameworks so you don't have to just fly blind when a conversation gets heated.
Yes, having a script helps immensely.
I want to walk through two of these acronyms because just knowing the letters doesn't really help when you're in the hot seat. First is the OFNR formula from nonviolent communication.
Observation, feeling, need, request.
Right. So how does this actually sound in practice?
Okay, let's say a colleague consistently talks over you in meetings, and you need to assert a boundary without triggering a defensive screaming match.
A very common scenario.
Using OFNR, you start with an objective observation. During the Q3 presentation, I was interrupted 3 times.
Okay, just the facts.
Then the feeling. I feel frustrated when I lose my train of thought.
Then the need.
Right. I need to be able to complete my analysis so the team gets the full picture.
And finally, the request.
Would you be willing to let me finish my slides before jumping in with feedback?
It totally removes the personal attack while still firmly demanding respect. That is so good.
And on the flip side of that, we have the AMPP listening technique from the book Crucial Conversations.
This is for when someone else is shutting down or getting defensive, right?
Yes. AMPP stands for Ask, Mirror, Paraphrase, Prime.
So you ask them to share their thoughts first.
Right. And if they say, I'm fine, but their arms are crossed and they are glaring at you, you mirror their physical state back to them. You say you're fine, but you seem really tense.
Then paraphrase.
You paraphrase what you think they're feeling to show you are actually listening.
Yeah.
And if they still won't talk, you prime the pump by guessing out loud.
Like if I were in your shoes, I might feel sidelined by that decision. Is that what's going on?
Exactly. You are competently engineering a safe space for dialogue.
And, you know, if taking those frameworks directly into the real world feels too daunting for you right now, we are living in this fascinating era where you can engage in low-stakes practice to gain that XP first.
The alternative practice spaces are amazing right now.
The sources detail how therapists are actually using tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons to help adults practice assertiveness and teamwork through the safety of a fantasy avatar.
It provides a buffer.
And there are virtual reality environments explicitly designed to simulate crowded lecture halls for public speaking practice.
There are even AI role-play applications now, like the Happy Shy People app.
Oh, right, where you can verbally practice difficult conversations with an AI.
Yes, you can literally practice asking for a raise or setting a boundary with a difficult family member over and over with a chatbot.
You gain those vital mastery experiences and let your nervous system realize it is safe before you ever have to face a real human.
It's greasing the groove, but for social skills.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. But if there is one central truth to take away, it's that feeling like you are not enough isn't a permanent personality trait.
Not at all.
It is simply a lack of structured evidence. By catching your cognitive distortions with the downward arrow, finding your flow channel, greasing the groove with easy wins to build competence, and shifting your mindset to be a lighthouse rather than a spotlight, you are actively pouring the concrete of your foundation.
You are. You are building an undeniable historical portfolio of your own worth.
It is a deliberate structural process.
It is. But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. One that connects this deeply human psychological process to the rapidly shifting technological world around us.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've established today that self-efficacy, the core engine of confidence, is built almost entirely on the friction of repeated, undeniable mastery experiences.
Right. You have to struggle slightly, overcome the challenge, and realize your own capability.
Exactly. But this raises an important question. As we rapidly move into an era where artificial intelligence does the heavy lifting for us, where AI drafts our difficult emails, solves our complex analytical problems, curates our schedules, and perhaps soon even mediates our communications, what happens to our internal psychological architecture?
Oh, wow.
If we outsource the necessary struggle of the competence loop to machines, if we no longer have to grease the groove ourselves, are we inadvertently engineering a future crisis of human self-efficacy?
That is chilling. If the house built itself, do we forget how to trust ourselves to swing the hammer? That is definitely something for you to think about until our next deep dive. Keep building your evidence, keep catching those distortions, and remember, you don't have to have it all figured out yet.